comes as no surprise that America has many issues that need to be solved, but the one I'm going to be focusing on today is the rising cost of college. The tuition cost to students has shot up rapidly over the past few years and shows no signs of slowing down. According to the College Board, the average rate of inflation-adjusted increases in the past 3 years was almost 1.5% yearly and 2.7% in 2015 to 16 alone. Since increases in college tuition, along with the debt that comes with it, affects nearly every teenager in America, including those in this classroom, I believe it to be one of the most important societal issues in 2016. To fully understand how much tuition costs have increased, it is more effective to look at a long-term statistic. According to Gordon Wadsworth, author of The College Trap, if tuition price was $10,000 in 1986 and tuition price increased with inflation, in 2012 it should have cost $21,500. Instead, it cost $59,800, which is way above the projected inflation increases over the 26 years. It is truly shocking to see that inflation is not even close to accounting for the extreme price jumps. While there is no definitive explanation to answer for all of these increases, one that does have a major impact is competition between universities. For universities to continue running, they obviously need more students, so when one school buys something such as a giant flat screen for their football stadium, they will inevitably end up with more applicants. Then other universities feel the need to buy something to make potential students interested in their school. And these large expenditures don't come cheap, and the people who have to pay them are often the students, which leads to increased tuition due to the college's extreme spending. What is very important to schools are sports. Sports teams have an extreme impact on the number of applicants a school gets, so naturally every school wants to have the best teams. One statistic reported by Forbes magazine analyzes Georgetown University, who saw a massive 45% increase in applicants in the 3 years after their basketball team became extremely successful. So I've shown you why these schools compete, but here's the downside to it. A common myth about college sports is that it makes money at incredible rates. Well, this is partly true because many do take in significant income. The vast majority of colleges spend way more on the athletic programs than they make. An NCAA report found that out of the 123 schools in the Football Bowl subdivision, the highest tier of college football, only 20 of the schools were profitable. The median revenues in these schools rose 3.2% from 2012 to 2013. However, the expenses rose 10.6%. Out of the 103 schools that lost money, the median deficit was a whopping $14.9 million. This report only gives statistics for the 123 schools in the Football Bowl subdivision, but it does confirm that the other 960 schools under NCAA supervision were not profitable. This means that only 20 out of 183 schools participating in college sports ever turn a profit, which is a staggering 1.8%. Now, at first, you may not care how much money college sports teams lose, but you should, because the students are often forced to pay for the deficits in their student fees, which many people do not know. Jeff Smith, a business professor at the University of South Carolina, has studied financial records from hundreds of schools and estimates that students borrow nearly $4 billion to pay off athletic fees each year. Mr. Smith also found that some smaller schools charge as much as $2,000 per year to each student in athletic fees alone. All of these fees can really add up and lead to a lot of debt, so that's why I made you guys a helpful graph on the average student debt. So you can see over here, without college, your student debt remains at a steady $0, but if you go to college, it's an average of $30,100. Now that is astounding.
Might as well call me Johnny, because I'm definitely in debt.
Hopefully I've convinced you by now that college competitiveness is rarely a good thing for students, but the important thing is how to fix it. This is a very tough issue to tackle, and there are many possible ways to deal with it. My preferred solution would be to enact regulations that require universities to make it clear to potential students that part of their tuition may be paying for lavish expenditures and tuitions of other athletes. Then the student can choose if they are okay with paying for the spendings of the schools. If similar regulations were implemented, perhaps some schools would think twice before they attempt to sneak in some extra fees next semester. While this will obviously not solve the entire tuition conundrum instantaneously, it will most definitely serve as a beginning step in slowing the tuition spikes. Hopefully after some refinements, future college students will be able to afford college much easier than students today. I really hope you enjoyed this presentation and learned a lot. Now let's hear some words from our satisfied customers.
Thank you, Chris, for teaching me so much about the rising of college tuition.
Thank you, Chris, for teaching me so much about rising college tuition. How much did I get?
Chris, thank you so much for for teaching me about rising college tuition. It really meant a lot, man. You're the best.
Thank you, Chris, for teaching me so much about rising college tuition.
Thanks, Chris, for teaching me so much about rising college tuition.
Thank you, Chris, for teaching me so much about rising college tuition.
You're welcome, guys. I'm always happy to inform America's youth.